All right, welcome back to the best of 2019 in film. We're going to start out the second half with our What You Drinking segment here on the Flicksation Podcast. Robert Gassaway, what you drinking?
Well, it's a special occasion, so I'm drinking my favorite bourbon. It's Eagle Rare, made by Buffalo Trace Distillery. I think it's like 10-year aged. It's just really mellow and smooth. I'm very early on in my bourbon education, my bourbon journey, but so far, Eagle Rare is my favorite.
Minister, what you drinking?
I think I've had it on here before, but it is my current favorite beer in the world, and it is from 5 miles away, Four Noses Brewing Company. It's a raspberry blonde ale. It's amazing.
All right, I am living the high life, guys. You are digging on High Life, the film. I got some High Life brew here, so a couple of tall cans still hanging out in the fridge, and I grabbed one. I got a pretty good selection of stuff in the fridge, but these are the ones that have been in there the longest, so let's get out of here before it gets too skunky. High Life it is. Ian Nichols, anything tonight?
Absolutely not. Drinking water. Have to wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow to catch a flight. So the answer is no.
Fair enough. All right, guys, it's that time once again. Fuck the Oscars. It's the Ronnies. Big Ron writing in with his top 10 films of the year. Number 10, Bombshell, The Fall of Fox News megaperv Roger Ailes. I saw this film getting absolutely panned, but really liked it. I'm a sucker for a righteous battle against injustice where the villain gets their comeuppance, especially in a true story, and this is exactly that. It looked pretty good, too. Number 9, The Irishman. Number 8, Just Mercy. Another righteous battle against injustice movie that really worked for me. Something about these things just push my buttons. Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx, both excellent. Number 7, Knives Out. Number 9, Mid-90s. I loved this movie so much. Being a guy who turns 40 this year, this film is about a kid trying to find his place socially. In that specific period, this resonated hugely with me. It's funny, awkward, cringeworthy, challenging, and crucially, really enjoyable. Loved it. Number 5, Marriage Story. Number 4, Wild Rose. Number 3, Jojo Rabbit. Number 2, Booksmart. There you go, Ron. And number 1, any guesses?
It's not Joker.
John Wick 3.
That.
John Wick 3.
Nope, all wrong. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino's best movie since 1995, in my view. I love this thing, guys. I'm still very much a fan of a movie about movies. And this is part love letter to Hollywood, part reworking of history to honor Sharon Tate. This bears all the great hallmarks of a Tarantino movie. Every frame, every single line of dialogue, every look of the eyes, every naked foot just lands for me. DiCaprio is superb as ever, and this is the best I've seen Pitt for some time. QT remains my guy. Great to have caught back up with the show, guys. Looking forward to hearing your picks. I shall settle down with a large Black Russian when I listen. Here's to a great film 2020. Peace, Big Ron. You can find him over at bigronfilmreviews.tumblr.com. Of course, that's not the end, guys. We also have The Shitties, Ron's 10 worst films of the year.
I just heard a few of those. I just heard a few of the shitties on that list, didn't I?
Well, you thought you might have, but here we go with The Shitties, guys. Let's get the fun stuff over with here. Number 10, In the Shadow of the Moon. And Everything Is Not As It Seems, vampire thriller starring Boyd Holbrook. This thing reeled me in pretty early and looked like it was going to be pretty good, but it simply falls off a cliff. Think 12 Monkeys, but nowhere near as good. Number 9, Joker. My least favorite film of 2019. I guess I'm not sure how the Shitties works then completely, but Joker, his least favorite film. Number 8, Aladdin, Guy Ritchie's superfluous remake of the perfectly decent 92 Disney animation. Will Smith trying to replace peak Robin Williams. Nothing wrong with it per se, it just made me wish I was watching the original. Number 7, Serenity. Number 6, Fractured. Number 5, David Harbour Fails in Hellboy, guys. Number 4, The Hustle. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is one of the last watchable films Steve Martin made, and a silly film I have some affection for. So this remake popped up. I gave it a try. Jesus, I wish I hadn't. Average Steve Martin is a lot better than anything Rebel Wilson could ever do, and this turkey was difficult to watch. Anne Hathaway not doing very well in this year's Shitties, guys. Number 3, Avengement. Number 2, Changeland. The voice of Chris from Family Guy and the guy from Road Trip go on holiday to Thailand to work on their lives and theirselves, and nothing of any interest whatsoever happens. Like nothing. Zero, zilch, nada. And the number 1 of the Shitties, guys, 6 Underground. And here we have the worst film of 2019, a leering hodgepodge of fucking nonsense. Imagine Michael Bay made the Deadpool movies, and they were really, really bad. This is basically a series of poorly edited bangs, booms, hot girls, and car chases with some odd stuff involving magnets. Yawn. Big Ron's film reviews once again, guys, at tumblr.com. So always a treat to get the Ronnies and the Shitties exclusively here on the Best of 2019 show. Hot off the presses, guys. This came in since we started recording, but we also now have something here from Myra, who sent us her thoughts on 2019 in film. Hi, guys. Hope you're all doing all right. Really happy to be around for another year with the Flicksation crew. 2019, a weird year in film for me because I feel like I watched a lot. Tried to keep up with new releases, but in pulling this together, there's not a lot to pick from, so I must be wrong. In any case, below is my best attempt to name a few of my favorite things from the last year. Favorite performances: Lupita Nyong'o from Us, Florence Pugh, Midsummer, and Little Women, Joe Pesci, The Irishman, and Willem Dafoe, The Lighthouse. Fave Doc, Apollo 11. Todd Douglas Miller got the chance to watch this one on IMAX. It was the most emotive trips to the theater I had this year. Favorite animated film: I Lost My Body, directed by Jeremy Clapin. Favorite new to me: Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window and 1995's animated Ghost in the Shell. Biggest disappointment of the year: Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Favorites of the year in no particular order: Knives Out, Little Women, The Farewell, directed by Lula Wang, and Parasite, of course. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, directed by Celine Sciamma. My favorite film of the year: it is Fire. That's all from here, guys. I'm really looking forward to hear what makes your lists and to more Flicksation in the new film year. Thank you, and keep up the great work. Myra, #release the Joker episode. So, thank you, Myra, for writing in with the best of 2019 in film here for you. Always great to hear from you folks out there. So it is time now, guys, to move on to the 3 worst films of the year. Always a treat to get to this part in the show. Robert, let's start with you. What were your 3 stinkers this year?
Well, the third worst was Under the Silver Lake, from the director who made It Follows. We talked about this one, I believe, on the podcast. It's basically Toxic Masculinity, the movie, but without the searing indictment or skewering of toxic masculinity, or it didn't have enough biting satire to it for me. Pretty bad. Second worst film of the year was 21 Bridges, Chadwick Boseman, in the film produced by the Russo brothers, coming off of Avengers Endgame. It's just really bad. It doesn't have anything to do with bridges. The plan is stupid. The criminals are stupid. It's a bad movie. Stupid movie. Really awful. Disappointing. Because usually the shitties, I think I did well this year. The shitties always tell me how my whiff test is doing, because I think I successfully navigated away from all of the shitties on Ron's list, but I fell for 21 Bridges. I think it was a double feature. I'm sure I ducked into it for free at some theater, but it still pissed me off. But the worst film was Jean-Luc Godard. A lot of people revere him. I love some of his films, but in his later years, he's gotten less and less interesting. But I'm still intrigued at a festival. So at New York Film Festival 2018, I did take the plunge on the Image book from Jean-Luc Godard, the Image book. So many walkouts, double-digit walkouts. I thought it was just super boring. It was more interesting hearing the editor talk about it afterwards, the process of making it, than the images used to make it. I mean, the images are taken from his previous films, so it's very meta, but the parts are greater than the whole. I cannot recommend the Image book from Jean-Luc Godard. It's the worst of 2019 for me.
Ian Nichols, the worst.
I didn't see any worse films.
Yeah, he is the worst.
He has a podcast for that.
Yeah, no shit. Oh my god. I was gonna say, isn't it? I mean, it's astounding the level of trash Ronnie stumbles into, that because he doesn't have a horror podcast where he has to watch the worst horror movies every 2 weeks. So yours has to be terrible as well, right?
Yeah, I tried to like make it more varied, more diverse, but yeah, third worst movie is Black Christmas remake. Quite terrible, quite misguided, really all over the place. Number 2, second worst film of 2019 is Tim Burton's Dumbo. If you'd asked me why up to this point I've literally seen every single Tim Burton film that's been made, I wouldn't have a good answer for you. I would not have a good answer.
Guilty as charged.
The worst movie of 2019. I'm not even sure any of y'all watched this one, but it is the best domestic selling film of China of all time ever. It was number 1 at the box office for literally months. It sold more tickets than any other film has since, even Endgame. It is called The Wandering Earth. And imagine in 2 hours' time, every single doomsday disaster movie you've ever seen. Just try to run through it real quick. Think about, Armageddon or
Dante's Inferno.
Day After Tomorrow. Yeah, it's all in this movie in 2 hours and 6 minutes. It is a complete and utter shit show. It looks like shit. It makes me sad about Chinese people. Like, I did not have an opinion about Chinese people as a whole. But if this is their best-selling film, I'm going to say that there are some questionable qualities that the Chinese people have. But for now, in America, it's the worst film of 2019.
And you love disaster movies, so this is...
I love disaster movies. I also loved A Chinese Man for like 2 years. So I'm not biased here.
I didn't go insanely obscure. All this stuff got big releases, but all of you managed to avoid all 3. So I'm happy for you guys. My number 3, it was one of Netflix's big fall releases. It seemed like an awards time release, but clearly not. It's called Earthquake Bird by Wash Westmoreland, which was Alicia Vikander and Riley Keough. It's like this lame, uptight girl versus free-spirited girl fighting over sexy weirdo photographer in Japan, and it's just consistently lame. So that's easily avoidable. Number 2, I should have saw this one coming, but I had morbid curiosity. James Franco's Zeroville, which played theaters. terrible, terrible actors playing caricatures of 70s Hollywood icons, stuff like Horatio Sands as Francis Ford Coppola.
What the hell?
Wow.
Hundreds of movie references, bad attempts at some trippy mystery at the center of this thing. You have James Franco playing Gaspar Noé with the brain of like a 14-year-old Amish kid with tattoos, with a shaved head and tattoos of Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor on it. It also has that, and his performance in this is the worst performance of the year, tied with John Hamm in oh Jesus, I will remember his name, and it is Richard Jewell.
Yeah, there you go.
The worst performance. It's just unbelievably bad. It's sleazy, embarrassing, and just a complete train wreck. And it played in theaters. And then number one, we all talked about at some point, I think, and we like his TV show, Noah Hawley's Lucy in the Sky, which doubled down on the Hamm. We got terrible, terrible performance by John Hamm as a horn dog astronaut driving manic Natalie Portman to lunacy. It's just big, bad performance from her as well. Terrible, terrible haircut. And you have Hawley. See, he does this on Legion, and it works. But Hawley attempting to jam every single annoying directorial trick into every scene, usually when it makes no sense. And this includes what I would say aspect ratio 50-1 at one point for no reason, just randomly in a scene. The screen is 50-1 wide to tall. Don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, and it's just got the worst finale of the year. So that thing I expected to be like bad fun. It's just embarrassing as well. So I guess they're all embarrassing. Skip them all. And Ronnie did.
Yeah, I don't know if Ronnie skipped this with next. This my number 3 here, but oh god, very bad. Completist, actually. Okay, so Rambo: Last Blood, number 3 here. I actually, so 1 and 2, big movies when I was very young. I definitely liked them. I still think 1 is a pretty good film for what it is. And then 4 came out in like 2008, 2010, something like that, out of nowhere, and it was actually not bad. So I didn't have great big expectations for this, but it looked pretty bad, and it definitely turned out to be so. So Rambo: Last Blood. Number 2, I have Aladdin here, but just make this a group of all these Disney live-action remakes of this year. Dumbo, Lion King, keep them all. They're all offensively fucking, why waste my time with this shit? But Aladdin was the one I actively disliked the most, so that's the one on my list here. And number 1, Ronnie had this one in the shitties, The Hustle. Absolutely terrible. And you mentioned, Ronnie, your affinity for Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I probably one up you there. I love Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. And I think there was actually one point when we were kind of scraping for stuff for the show that I suggested that as a double bill.
Nice.
Because I love that film, and I guess I didn't think The Hustle would be that bad, but holy mackerel, not good. Not good. Anne Hathaway, you gotta make better choices, man. This is terrible. Rebel Wilson is what she is, but yeah, just stay away. A steaming pile indeed. All right, guys, let's move on to the top 5 films of the year. Robert, number 5.
It goes to the Safdie brothers' third feature that I've seen. Yeah, Heaven Knows What, and then Good Time, and now Uncut Gems. They get better and better for me, landing inside the top 5 with, you call it a dramatic Adam Sandler performance, which I'm always on board for. It is a great performance. It's great to see him get outside of his Netflix comedy schlock. And I'm a big NBA fan. I don't bet on sports, but I don't think I don't. This might be a weird take. I don't think the bets are bad in this. When we talked about this on the show, Eric's like, "I've never seen a stupider bet," and his bookie in this movie says, "That's the stupidest bet I ever heard." But the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, "Yeah, Garnett's going to win the tip, of course. Yeah, he can lead the game in rebounds. He can lead in scoring, and yeah, those are all sound bets. Like he's making a good choice here. Yeah, let the money ride. That's a good investment." But this guy just keeps stepping in it. It's a very agitated performance. It's a very anxiety-riddled film. But I loved the ride. I think it's artistically done. I think it's economical. I like the faces of the heavies in this movie. Idina Menzel, I haven't seen her in this type of role. I forget the name of the actress that plays Julia Fox plays his assistant at the store. She's great in it. I think it's her first film role. The interesting history of how it was made. The Safdies just make these gritty New York films, and they pay off for me. Good Time was in my top 10 for sure. This one's in my top 5. Keep them coming. Safdies, Uncut Gems. Love it.
Ian Nichols.
Yes, I have a number 5. It is Jordan Peele's Us. There are a lot of aspects to this movie that people that I think people can extricate some kind of meaning from, and I don't think they're wrong. I think there's commentary on class and race and sexism, but I also think there's commentary on how even America views itself, right? Just this collective idea of how Americans view themselves, and then also how we project our own self-image with that in mind. I think there's a lot of deep philosophical discussions that can be had just around this film alone. But ultimately, it's eerie, it's beautiful, it's funny, and it features some amazing performances. This is a film that I've watched I watched it 3 times in 2019, and I was wary that I would like it less. Every single time I watch it, I find something else. There's something more to be said about it. There are more visual cues that I pick up on. More themes, more patterns. It's just an incredible film. There's so much to take away from it that it may be messy, and maybe that's why it's not number 1. But messy does not mean imperfect. So Us is number 5.
Yeah, I gotta touch back. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. That was one of my Pizza Hut VHS, Eric.
Oh, sweet.
Got that one from Pizza
I probably
Hut.
did too.
Okay, it was a big hit in my house. Number 5, Eric actually talked about, so I'll be quick. And it's one I don't remember, and then I was going to rewatch, and I was like, oh, no, that fits. That's kind of how you want to. You want to not remember this movie. Christian Petzold's Transit, because even if you watch it today, you're not going to really... it's kind of that shifting reality, dreamlike thing to it. But I just think the atmosphere Petzold creates here is unbelievable. This out-of-time story, but politically of our time, the sensual and paranoid. It's like this dream I don't want to leave, even though it's filled with dread. And as I said in our review, I don't want to ruin it by rewatching it. I watched it on a bad device in a bus, and the whole thing had this wonderfully dreamlike, gauzy nature to it that does not exist, but it does for my viewing. So Petzold is one of my guys. I really like everything pretty much, and so Transit may even be my favorite. So number 5.
All right, Robert, hit the lighthouse horn. It is time for In Fabric, Peter Strickland's ghost story, I guess we'll call it, about the haunted dress. I still think about this film today. We talked about it on the show, but I relive the commercial for the store just about every day in my head. Love it. Yeah, a lot of things about this that stick in my head, but a big fan of this film. Had a lot of fun with not very much of a horror movie for me, obviously, but still good stuff. My number 6. All right, Robert, or 5. Robert, moving on to number 4.
It is Her Smell, which we talked about, Elizabeth Moss's performance. I'm a fan of Alex Ross Perry. I liked all of his stuff except for Queen of Earth. I thought it was above average. I didn't see Golden Exits, but I've seen all his other stuff. and it keeps getting better. Her smell is really interesting, claustrophobic. The audio cues, it feels like it's in the bowels of the performance venue where her rock band is supposed to be performing, and you hear tuning instruments or the band or the crowd anxious for them to come on stage. But beyond that, it sounds digestive, the way the sounds that undulate in the soundtrack around this manic performance at the center. She's kind of like playing a Courtney Love type, and you have her manager, you have her ex, and her child, her bandmates, some good supporting performances. It's basically 5 stories where it alternates between a public and private scene, a public performance versus a private moment at home or in the rehearsal studio. Really interesting kind of behind the scenes, or it's kind of like if that VH1 series Behind the Music was a movie about a fictional band. I didn't see Alex Ross Perry making that. This was my biggest surprise at the New York Film Festival the last time I went. I didn't expect this one to be among the best films I saw there. And so it was not a 2018 release. It held over to 2019 and has stayed in my top 5 all year. I think it's really interestingly constructed and excellently performed. Yeah, I think Perry doesn't get credit for his craftsmanship. He wrote this film. The dialogue that Moss is delivering is like really witty and like a lot of comebacks and kind of manic and references to pop culture stuff that most of the audience doesn't get, some that I didn't get. But where she's drawing from and her partnership with Perry really made a surprising film, and number 4 for me for 2019.
It's been mentioned before, but I'll mention it again. El Maya, Tail Feathers, and Kathleen Hepburn's The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open is my number 4. This movie creates a lot of space for us to lean into it and become invested without really having to do much. Over the course of 105 minutes, we basically witness what it's like to try to help someone who may not be in that place to be helped. And that can be okay, even though it's awful and it sucks, to be the one who's trying to help and also to be the one who needs help and has yet to recognize how to receive it or to be open to it. Those are really difficult things to watch. And we see that play out essentially in real time, which feels more like slow motion. But honestly, this is one of those movies where I watched it and I thought, well, this is nothing special. And I woke up the next day and it was just like, but there's absolutely nothing fucking wrong with it. And that right there is something special. I think this is just an incredible movie. It's all women. There's one man, we never see his face, and that sends the right kind of message of what they're aiming for here. And also awesome that we have a native cast too. So my number 4 is The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open.
Yeah, Eric, you just talked about it. You said there's things that stick in your mind about this movie. And I would say there's things that might stick in your hair in this film. And that would be the old man furiously masturbating and then the semen flying across the screen with Peter Strickland's In Fabric. I think the key here is just how committed he is. Strickland commits. He commits to the horror. It's an actual horror movie. He commits to the absurdist comedy, to the juvenile comedy, just to the fucking weird. He commits to his Kubrick-like design obsessive-ness. And I just thought it was a laugh riot blast of a film. He's made 3 films. I guess I didn't like the middle one, but man, I really like what this guy does. So I hope he's not that old. I hope it doesn't take like every 5 years or something, because this is awesome.
All right, number 4 for me. This is where I slotted in our old pal Marty Scorsese with The Irishman. Yeah, complaints about the length, no problem here. Some fantastic performances. I think, Ian, you coined it as good fellows with old guys, and that's exactly pretty much what we get here. Pacino, fantastic as Jimmy Hoffa, which I don't have that much experience with either, but could be it. Who knows what else we're going to see from Scorsese, if we're going to see anything to this magnitude again. But it was great to have this cast together for this pretty great project. So, big fan of The Irishman. All right, Robert, moving into number 3. Yes.
Horror film.
Oh, shit.
I think it's the best horror comedy since Shaun of the Dead. It's called One Cut of the Dead. It's a Japanese horror comedy directed by Shinichiro Ueda.
I thought you were going Jarmusch there for up until the very last millisecond.
I don't want to say too much about One Cut of the Dead because I didn't know much going into it. The synopsis on Letterboxd is light enough. Things go badly for a hack director and film crew shooting a low-budget zombie film in an abandoned World War II Japanese facility when they are attacked by real zombies. It's my favorite film about filmmaking this year, even above Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love Tarantino, love Scorsese, but those guys did not make my top 10. This small little film from Japan did. It was a huge surprise at the Phoenix Film Festival for me, and I'm glad it's found a following. It's just super fun and clever. It has, yeah, that's spoiler too, but I like where it goes, what it does, how it does it. It's really funny, really clever, low budget, and right up my alley. One Cut of the Dead is more than just a one-take film. It does that, but it's what it does with it, how it approaches it. It's very tongue-in-cheek, but not in a winking kind of way, in a playful, exuberant, creative kind of way. Definitely check out One Cut of the Dead if you haven't already.
Mi película que es tercero mejor de 2019 is Birds of Passage. I just don't worry, it was in Spanish, guys. Don't even worry about it. We talked about a little bit about this before, but this is one of the most beautiful films of the year. Dealing with a really tragic story and yet somehow still very zen at the same time. It's a really incredible dichotomy. This was a film that I started watching it. I thought I wasn't going to like it, and the further along it went, the more rapturous it became. With not like it's mise en scène, it's minimalism, and also it's amateur acting, which fits that kind of minimalism, minimalist style as well. I'm excited to see more from these directors in the future, but I find this film to be the most subtly moving film of 2019. So my number 3 is Birds of Passage.
Minister?
Yeah, okay. See if I can get through the title here. There's some long ones with the native Canadian one. Sorry, that's not. Yeah, this one's long. Okay, I saw this at a film fest like 5 years ago, and then I saw it this year, and none of you have seen it. It's Simon Lavoie and Mathieu Denis, and it is a French-Canadian film. It is called Those Who Make Revolution Halfway Only Dig Their Own Graves, and it is another one kind of made for me. So it's ambition is how I would describe it. It's 3+ hours. It's got I love intermissions. It's got a heavy metal intermission. Unfortunately, at the festival, I didn't know how long it was, so I don't think I left, but I love an intermission, and I think it's the first heavy metal one I've ever had. So this is about 4 upper middle class, revolutionary, college age Quebecers. It's 2 women, a transgender woman, and a man. I'm not sure where she's at on that. That's why I said transgender woman. I'm not sure where she's at on the change, but yeah, it's a hard one to describe, but it's kind of this powerless revolutionary cell. They all leave their middle-class homes after just arguments and just not being happy with where they live. So it's this powerless revolutionary cell in a relatively content capitalist society. So they just can't get traction ever. They have very strong beliefs. they try. There's very little traction, even among the people who don't have much. Excitement turns to disillusionment, anger without real direction. There's deep guilt in their wealth. There's a hopelessness leading to self-sacrifice, which is maybe the most interesting thing. The idea that when you really can't get anything going, but you feel so strongly, you're railing against this system. What do? You start cutting yourself off in ways. From wealth, they're basically, they have no money, they have no jobs, they live in an abandoned type warehouse. It reminds me of this Philip Roth novel called American Pastoral, which may be his most famous one, where there's a rich anti-war daughter of a rich man. She's anti-war, and she joins like a weather underground type thing, and it kind of ramps up, and she ends up being I think I got the word right, an ascetic, somebody who wants to do no harm to the world in any way, to the point where they won't even breathe the air because of the things that they're going to destroy within the air. Whatever lives in the air that you breathe in and kill, like they want to do no harm because they have so much guilt for just living, basically. And that's kind of where these people are headed. And just guilt and wealth, yeah. And style of filmmaking, it's very film school. Poetry and senseless violence and angry nude painting, throwing paint at walls and screaming, speechifying and sexual freedom. And it's just kind of this 3+ hour epic mess in a way. But I found it really moving and often pathetic in a way that, I don't know, it confronted things that I'm really, really interested in. So, it's not impossibly far from something like Taxi Driver and a Travis Bickle, obviously different aims, but that idea of you can't fucking do anything and the world's crumbling, or at least you see it that way. So this is a monster of a movie. I don't know if anyone will ever see it, but those who make revolution halfway only dig their own graves.
All right, number 3 for me, The Lighthouse. Yeah, kind of love this thing. Ian, I'm looking at my list. 4 of my 10 horror films, to some degree. So, yeah, The Lighthouse, great. Defoe, fantastic. Anxious, funny, tense film. That's number 3, right? Yeah, so Robert, down to number 2 here.
Number 2 for me is Portrait of a Lady on Fire, directed by Celine Sciamma. I believe we covered her last film, Girlhood, on the podcast a couple of years ago. Really interesting French film. This one's totally different. It's French, but that's about all it has in common. Well, it is also about girlhood, because I think it's best going into this film only knowing what I knew, which is very little. I just knew this was a love story between 2 women, and go with it from there, knowing that it's got a lot of good buzz. It's made by someone very artistic. I didn't even realize that one of the co-stars is Adele Haenel, who I loved in the Dardenne Brothers' Unknown Girl a few years ago. And then she had a cameo in Nocturama. She's just a really interesting French actress. So she's in this as well. I think it's the most deeply felt film of the year. It's in theaters right now, like in a wide release. You can see it by the time this episode hits. It got a limited release in December, and film festivals before that. And I had heard that it had one of the best endings of the year, along with Pain and Glory, and it definitely does, the final shot. But all the scenes before that are just gripping. The way the story is told, the way Sciamma frames it and gets these performances from the actors. It's surprising, but still kind of, it's not a crazy film. It doesn't go way outside what you might be expecting, but it's the way it unfolds, the way the performances reveal themselves. Thinking about things about like artist and muse, or the act of looking, what that does to someone being looked at, when you take somebody's photograph or paint their picture, what that exchange is emotionally. That's what this film covers. It's really kind of different in that respect. I'm not sure I've seen a film that tells this story in this way. And so that's why I think it's on a lot of lists, just really artistically done. I definitely think people should see it as soon as they can. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, number 2.
And that was Myra's number 1, right? We did hear that correctly?
That's right. Yep.
Wow, that's pretty high.
Right now on Letterboxd, when you go rate it, it's not even stars. It's flames, because Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Ooh.
Why are they promoting the film this way? I don't know. They got a vested interest in it, and I'm here for it.
Ian, number 2.
My number 2 is Ari Aster's Midsommar. So another horror movie to throw in the mix. I think that's 7 titles now.
Wow.
Yeah, big one. And it's not even all just me.
It's 8. 8. We're at 8.
We're at 8 now.
Yeah.
Holy shart. So yeah, Ari Aster's Midsommar is one of the most beautiful films of the year. An incredibly detailed, shiny, depressing film, as well as disturbing. Florence Pugh obviously gives one of the best performances of the year in this film. And I think as far as meditations on grief goes, this has to be one of the rare angles to take on how to process grief at this commune in northern Sweden during midsummer when it's daylight all the time. It's violent, but it's moving. I ached watching it with emotion the first time I saw it. And upon rewatches 3 times in 2019, I discover that there's more and more and more involved in the messages and the themes of this film, and especially with how we express empathy, how it finds us or how we seek it out, and sometimes even how we turn it away from us. Not enough can be said about it, but my number 2 is Midsommar.
Yeah, Ian, sorry to question you. You're very right about the crossover. You're on the money, as always. I will never, ever learn. But, so my number 2 is, I think everyone's talked about it. It is Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse, and another experience movie, but everyone's talked about it, so I'll just say the way I describe it is a wacky ham-off between Dafoe and Pattinson.
Ham off.
All right, number 2 for me, surprise. I figured I'd like this. I didn't think I'd go head over heels for it, but Knives Out, my number 2. Big fan of this whodunit. I think Daniel Craig is, I've used the term delightful more times than I have probably ever in this show, and I'm just going to keep going with that. Yeah, Rian Johnson kind of renews himself after I was not terribly impressed with The Last Jedi or whatever that one was called. So, yeah, Knives Out, big fan, and I'm glad to hear a sequel has already been commissioned, assuming Rian Johnson sticks to this thing. So, if you haven't seen it, I recommend Knives Out to just about anybody on the planet. All right, number 1, Robert, what is it?
Drum roll. We're in the number 1. That's all you just say, drum roll, obviously.
And drum roll, commence and stop. My number 1's been number 1 since I saw it. It's The Last Black Man in San Francisco. It's kind of the sleeper indie hit of the year. It's got a lot of fans. I'm glad it's not totally under the radar for like cinephiles. I was surprised to hear that my mom sat down and watched it because she and my brother had asked what's my favorite film of the year, and I told them that was this one, and it wasn't for her, but my brother liked it, and I'm glad people are seeing it. It's a big accomplishment not only for A24 but for this first-time actor Jimmy Fails. It's really based on his life. He was friends with Joe Talbot years before this. They made a short film, sort of a proof of concept to sell this film, and then made it. But they lived together as friends for years before this, and have experienced what goes on in this movie. But The Last Black Man in San Francisco is about, you can view it through a lot of lenses. It's largely about the gentrification in a big city, specifically San Francisco. I enjoyed most watching it through the lens of a location film. I love films that pour heavy in the category of location, giving you a sense of the building that they spend most of the time in and the path to get there from another destination, just really immersing you in a neighborhood or a room or a house or a neighborhood. But it's also interesting that it's largely a black story with a white director at the helm. This is the second such film on my list with Waves, white director telling a largely black film, which could be problematic in some situations if they weren't as connected to the story as these directors are. Collaborating with the stars that are lending their experience, the black experience in America, to the story, and teaming up with somebody who's good at directing and good at writing, and the other half of the duo is good at acting or portraying these emotions that come with these experiences. So that's another lens you can view it through. It's also got some supernatural elements going on, but very light on that. I think it's just got a lot of different angles for architecture nerds or Bay Area natives or indie film heads, basically looking for something it's kind of basically a Sundance hit. We just got out of Sundance 2020. Seemed kind of to go out with a whimper. Not a lot of big fanfare coming out of it this year. We'll talk about what we're anticipating in 2020 a little bit later. But in 2019, I was kind of tuned in to Sundance, and there was a handful of films that had some interesting buzz. I didn't expect Last Black Man in San Francisco to be at number one just based on that buzz. But once I saw it, I knew that it just hit close to home for me, a story I could connect with, having visited a lot of areas that change over time and seen people move away from neighborhoods that I was familiar with, and then you revisit them and you're not so familiar with them, and the people are changed so much. That displacement, what that does to somebody, not just in their own life, but over generations. A lot of this story is about the main character's grandfather and father. And then the way the film is shot, with a lot of lockdown cameras, but then inserts of the free-flowing handheld of Jimmy Fails skateboarding through the streets, the winding hills of San Francisco, and the supporting character played by Jonathan Majors is really fascinating here. He might give the best performance in the film. I think it's interesting where it goes. Some people said they didn't like the third act as much, didn't feel as natural to the story, but I thought it was great. Can't wait to watch it again. Even Tashina Arnold from remember the Martin Lawrence sitcom Martin, the neighbor Tashina Arnold, Pam on that show. She's in this. Rob Morgan, Mike Epps, Danny Glover. Just really enjoyable scenes, enjoyable performances. You can tell that they're invested in this. This is their story. It's like when a band you like has their debut album. It's just the energy that comes with that try as they might, the second and third album just can't match that freshness or that energy. I wish Jimmy Fails nothing but the best, and Joe Talbot, the director, great success in the future. But to capture the magic that they captured in this first film, I think is highly unlikely. But let's enjoy it for what it is. It's my number one of 2019.
Yes. I appreciate all of your opinions, and they're all valid. And also, the actual best film of the year is not liked by many, actually. But it's Mike Leigh's Peterloo. From what I understand, Mike Leigh typically gets together with his actors and they kind of co-write the script together, just kind of as a group. They do a little bit of improv based on the story, and then they just kind of build it out. Peterloo is a very dry film, is how I'd describe it. It's a very wordy film. And yet Mike Leigh still went through that same process with his actors. Maybe things are a little different this time. They took actual letters and actual speeches that were spoken by people in the 19th century, England, and actually speak them in the film. And so the language had to be kind of built around exactly the language that they were using at that time. And as you can imagine, things being written and speeches being given, that language was just full of flourishes and so dramatic, and everything was on show, essentially, with class, strata, and trying to impress those above you and those below you. This entire film really is in some way, shape, or form about reputation, right? But the thing that really gets me about this film is all the grandstanding, all of the ego. Everyone wants to come to a place where they are the ones that are on stage. They are the ones that are leading this movement of the workers of Manchester to be fairly represented in Parliament in England. And of course, all of this is leading up to the Peterloo Massacre, which apparently isn't even taught in English schools. So when this movie came out in England, this was kind of big. I don't want to say big news, but like a big surprise to a lot of people. They never heard about this. And it's literally the British government killing, I think maybe something along the lines of 15 people as they were gathering to hear this man speak about fair representation in Parliament. And the thing is, though, every single person who has this really great, sincere, authentic desire for justice at the level of Parliament is still looking out for themselves, is still looking out for their ego, even if they're completely on the right side of history, even if they're the kindest, most open, smartest people, they're still rooted in ego, every decision that they make. And a big part of why and how that comes through is through language. You can imagine when I saw this, all I could think about was today, or, a year ago when I first saw it. All I could think about was politicians, even the ones that I liked, and how much they just fucking talked and did nothing and do nothing. They just keep talking and they just keep debating. And at the end of the day, they're the ones that are up on stage. They're the ones that are under the spotlight, and they are the ones whose ego has to drive them to the point of wanting to lead a group of people or even an entire country. And that's exactly what this movie is, just on a small scale, Manchester 1834 workers' rights, very small scale, but everything in this movie, especially through its language, has reveals a much larger pattern in real life. This movie is very flat. Dick Pope is the cinematographer. He does an amazing job, but he obviously kept things very, very simple for a very good reason, because this movie is, according to Mike Leigh, supposed to just exist. He's not trying to run home any kind of message here. And that's another reason why I really loved it. One of the things that was constantly brought up upon its release was Brexit. And if it doesn't perfectly fit the complexities of the politics around Brexit, and doesn't perfectly reflect that, then I don't know what would. But to me, this movie is universal and it's timeless. And I think its initial reception is just wrong. And I think this will age very, very well, and maybe to a scary point. So Peterloo is my number one.
Old Dick Poop.
Old Dick Poop. Yeah. And Adele Dazeem was mentioned earlier, but no one seemed to correct Robert when he said Idina Menzel. So
I think Ian shocked the world there. I just have to say, you shocked the world. So congratulations to you. Yeah, my number one, I don't think it would be a surprise to anyone if they pay attention to me. I don't think many people do, so it might shock someone. It's been mentioned at least twice, and it is Christina Gallego and Kira Guerra's Birds of Passage. We talked about this on the show. I raved a lot. I raved about Embrace of the Serpent a couple years ago. That was my number two. This is just, I think I like this better. And that surprises me. It's this brilliant transplant of the American gangster epic into a new setting, and it's just so surprising how much that setting matters in this, and how much of a difference telling a similar story with those tropes, almost like a deconstruction of the genre in native Colombian jungle homes, how much it makes a difference. I mean, the setting obviously plays in here, and just who's making it, but just visually lush throughout, calmly paced, so cold, violent. But I mean, we've all hit on it. We talked about it a lot. Western influence leading to tragic deterioration of a family, of a community, possibly of a way of life. It goes right to my heart. What a film. This thing is is amazing. It's my number one. I don't think there's a better director working than this husband or this wife and husband grouping. Now, 2020 is the test. What happens when Chira Guerra does not direct with his wife, but replaces her by hitching his wagon to the guitarist of supergroup American Vampires, Johnny Depp? We'll see. We will see in 2020 if it gets released. What happens when you ditch your wife for American Vampires, or sorry, Hollywood Vampires guitarist Johnny Depp?
Yeah, we will see. All right, number one for me, man, it is getting eerie. I cannot believe how often this has happened in the last 10, 12 years at this point, or even going back further. My favorite film matches up once again with the Academy. Parasite, guys, number one for me. So, yeah, long tradition of that ending up happening to me. We usually have this show a couple of weeks before the Oscars, so not this time, so it's on the other end, but still. Parasite, The Artist, Argo, The Shape of Water, Green Book. No, just kidding. No Green Book. Still haven't seen it, but yeah, Parasite, love it. Yeah, the second half is so good. So goddamn good. Number one, guys. Good work. Crossover indeed. What did we hit? 8 was the total on the horror films? Or did we add something else in there? Okay. So,
my predictions were pretty spot on. I got some good instinct this year, 2020. Good instinct.
Good instincts. Okay.
Good.
It's probably like a third of the films we picked.
Yeah.
With all the crossover. Everything's horrible. That's why everything's horrifying.
Yeah.
Horror balls.
Lots of horror and horror crossover. It's pretty weird. All right, let's talk about a couple of miscellaneous categories here. Minister, what was your nicest surprise this year?
Yeah, I think a couple of people caught up with it, maybe, but I liked Swiss Army Man, so I don't know what the thing was, but Daniel Scheinert's The Death of Dick Long. I was sure I was going to leave after 10 minutes, and I almost did, and then it's really funny, and there's actually more to that. So The Death of Dick Long, if you haven't seen it, it's a dumbass movie.
All right, so yeah, there's a couple things that could go on here. I suppose Knives Out would work. I'm going to throw Crawl in there because that's probably the one nobody saw coming on my list. So, the nicest surprise of the year for me. Robert, anything?
Yeah, the Italian film Piranhas. I didn't expect much from it. Heard a little bit of good buzz. I still don't think most people have heard of it, much less seen it. But for me, it played like a sequel to Gomorrah, about kid wannabe gangsters in Italy. But this is more updated with kids that are like millennials and feel entitled even though they come from nothing. So it's like teenage or young 20s gangsters in beautiful Italy. So I do recommend Piranhas. It's my top 20.
Minister, any studio snubs this year?
Yeah, I put this one on there because there's two movies that I thought no one talked about. One that's really good and one that I just liked and I don't really get why no one did. So no, I don't get why no one really gave a shit about Motherless Brooklyn. I think that was really solid. But the big one is Todd Haynes' Dark Waters. This is, I mean, if you want to deduce it or reduce it to like very simple, lame terms, let's say it's an Aaron Brockovich in the tone of Spotlight. And it's better, a lot better than Aaron Brockovich, I would think. And it's pretty close to as good as Spotlight, and it matters. And Todd Haynes is one of the better directors working. So I don't really get it, but it's like a righteous up against the system, save humanity movie from a great American director that no one gave a shit about. So I don't get it, but it's got to be better than pretty much everything nominated for best film. I don't know. I didn't watch most of those.
I wanted to watch Dark Waters, but I just didn't think it needed to be seen in theaters, but it's just not on VOD yet. So I will catch up with it. I kind of want to go to see something very like sobering and like bone dry. It's just kind of procedural, and it looks better than The Report, but similar. So I'll catch up with it, but just is not on VOD just yet.
Any snubs for you, Robert?
Yeah, I'll say that France messed up by not submitting Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Instead, they did Les Miserables, which I saw is not nearly as good as Lady on Fire. And Jordan Peele's Us. If Joker is in the Oscar conversation, then Jordan Peele's Us should have been getting some kind of awards love, I would think. The studio should have pushed it harder.
All right. So, yeah, you just mentioned my biggest disappointment this year. That would be Joker. I was hoping for a lot more with this thing. I saw it a couple of weeks after it came out. So, yeah, all the buzz didn't work for me. Just kind of a low rent king of comedy. How about you, Ian? Or Minister, any disappointments?
Oh my God! Going forward, I might get to be Ian again. It's gonna blow minds.
Yeah.
I get disappointed a lot, and I was very, very excited for these two films. And one was theater, and one was at home. But almost the Tarantino, as everyone knows, I thought it was just square, and I was excited for that thing. But it's fitting that Ian had to bow out because my biggest disappointment of the year is from one of my favorite directors of all time, and it's Mike Lee's Peterloo. P.U. more like.
Yeah, it was great. It was just kind of, I thought it was good, but not as great as I'm used to him.
I mean, I think I've seen them all. I think it's his weakest.
Yep, Ian has left, folks, because he has to fly out in the morning. So it's now time to take a dump on his number one pick. All right, why the fuck did everyone like this film? I know nobody in our circle or no real critics like this thing, but there were a bunch of people that would not shut up about it. I watched it. It was not good. Didn't expect it would be good, but Netflix makes it easy to waste 80-some minutes to watch something that may have had an impact on my life when I was much younger, but The Dirt, that Netflix film about Motley Crue, pretty goddamn bad. So I don't know if it still is, but at one point it was like the most watched movie on Netflix ever. So, yeah, I don't know what everybody's doing.
And Ian's judging the Chinese.
Yeah, well, that's true. That is
well,
true.
They're tied in. Maybe it's huge in China. Maybe they're to blame here, too.
Could be. Robert, why the fuck did everyone like this film?
Well, it depends what you mean by everyone. Like, everyone in the art house sort of like film Twitter universe seemed to like The Souvenir from Joanna Hogg. And I just did not go for that love story and it seemed kind of pointless, even if it's autobiographical. I just didn't want to watch that. It was just okay. But most people outside of the art house world have never heard of that film. So I would say for the mainstream, everyone, box office and critics, really went for Toy Story 4, and I just did not. Same with Toy Story 3, not the best in the series. 1 and 2 are the best. 3 and 4 should not be getting awards. And best Oscar for best animation, that tells the down year for animation.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. I should have thought of that. I did not, but yeah. Minister, you got one here?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm a recovering hoghead after The Souvenir because I didn't particularly go for that, and I was a big fan of her going in. So that's another disappointment. But why the fuck? I can't remember how popular it was on our show, but for me, not much analysis. But Ad Astra, I thought was very bad.
Yeah, I think we were all not hugely high on it, but I liked it up until the end. Christian was really high on it, I remember. Did fade out, though. Did fade out. All right, guys, let's move to the Smokers Lounge here. I actually got 2 categories for my Smoking Lounge Awards. I'm going to give the Cannabis Smoking Award over to our friends at Dolomite Is My Name. Lots of fine cannabis being consumed there in the 70s in that one. And my Tobacco Leaf Award going to Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Just don't remember a ton of other films with good, heavy smoking in them. So definitely plenty in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Ian, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it. The winner is that Russian film Leto, just because they're smoke, just pounding them. But I think generally you just have to hit Asian films, and even sometimes if I can't remember, I just assume. But there was a lot of smoking in Ashes Purest White, and I think there might have been a lot of smoking in that one that I forgot the title of, Robert. The Journey to the End of the World, or Journey to I don't remember. There we go. A lot of smoking there. I can't remember. I think there's like some iconic smoking even in that one, but Asian film is a go-to.
Yeah, this is increasingly rare in modern films, so I don't really pay attention to it, but it's more than old school films. But I did see a movie called Ray and Liz. It's autobiographical from a photographer who made a film about like his upbringing, and the cover of Ray and Liz is a smoking mom, and she just sits on the couch and smokes all day in the movie. So Ray and Liz will be my choice for Smoker's Lounge.
All right, working class hero. What do you got this year, Minister?
Yeah, did anyone see Dogman?
No.
I did. That's like a David and Goliath one from Italy.
Matteo Garrone, a favorite of mine ever since, well, Gomorrah, but more so Reality with Enzo. Not working class Enzo, but so the main character here, Marcello Fonte, I imagine, plays a guy named Marcello in Dogman, and he saves a dog that a man put in a freezer. That is wonderful, and he also is being harassed by a raging drug-addicted goon who wants to kill him, and he manages to fool him and trap him in a cage and murder him. So that's wonderful, because our lead here is a very small man just trying to make his way grooming dogs.
Nice. Sounds like a top-notch bloke.
And it's like it's kind of like a sleazy Euro crime movie that is really nice. It's really decent. We don't get a lot of those, like just a good dirty crime movie.
All right, some favorites from Robert, did you ever work in class?
Give me Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse. To be a wiki back then, to take a boat and live on that island for however many months, and he knows his job in and out. He wants everything cleaned to his specifications, and he's dedicated to the work and breaking any young apprentice sent to him.
All right, some favorite things now from 2019 as we close out here. Robert, what was your favorite score this year?
Joker. It won the Oscar. I can't remember the woman's name, but that's the only one I really remember. I didn't keep a running list this year, but that one stands out. Or the best music would be from Amazing Grace, the Aretha Franklin documentary. But that's a cheat because that's a concert film. But the music is great in that. So Joker for score, Amazing Grace for music.
Yep, exactly the same. Joker, all very good, and the only one that stands out for me as well. Minister?
Yeah, another one I need to start keeping track of, because music makes such a difference in mood and stuff. But for me, it's just got to be from that Russian one again, Leto, just because of all the music they put together for it. It's almost wall-to-wall music. And smoking.
Robert, your best villain of 2019.
This is a tough category. A lot of good contenders, man. But I think I'm going to give it to Taika Waititi playing Adolf. I don't for him. He is the villain, but he is hilarious. And that film doesn't work for me in every scene. It doesn't play. There's some great parts to it, some good performances, but I think Waititi is great as that Adolf character. That's a hero to the protagonist, but a villain to us. I think Waititi goes next level with that performance.
Yeah, it's this guy, the actor Greider Meza, but he plays Leonidas in Birds of Passage. He's the son, the entitled rich kid hellspawn, really destroying an entire civilization through his evil acts.
Yeah. All right, best villain for me, the old whack-off guy from In Fabric.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking best scene, but yeah, best villain. I guess he's a villain.
You kind of stole my joke. I was gonna do that exact same thing for best scene. Yeah, old whack off guy, best scene as well. So yep, That's what I had written down. Robert, your favorite scene this year?
Another tough category. So many choices. I thought about J-Lo. I thought about the moon chase on Ad Astra. Joker dancing down the stairs. Pain and Glory, that lovers reunion. Portrait of a Lady on the Fire, the ending. But I think my number one is the opening single take dance rehearsal from Climax. Both times I saw it, I was just transfixed for the first 25 minutes or so. So Gaspar Noé, he knows how to put together a scene.
Yeah, I just put a hell of a lot of value in my favorite actor of all time bringing the most emotional scene of 2019. So
what did Clint Howard do this year?
Yeah, what did Paul Walter Hauser do? Just De Niro, the phone call to Mrs. Hoffa, where he can't even get the words out. It's just like, it's really wonderful to see a guy who I've just obsessed with his work for 40, 50, I guess a 50 plus year career, pull that out in his 70s. It's a phenomenal scene.
Robert, cinematography.
The Lighthouse left the most lasting impression. That aspect ratio, he's using lenses from that era of when this lighthouse would have existed. Really striking visuals on The Lighthouse.
Yep, we line up again. Total agreement, Lighthouse.
Yeah, one of the great cinematographers working, Darius Kanji, for Uncut Gems, because I think it's a fucking ugly movie, and I think it's supposed to be.
That actually I was really considering that for this as well. So cool. All right. Why can't I read that? Anybody with any screenplay nods here?
I'll give mine to After Purest White. The time it spans, and a female-centered gangster movie. Very unusual, very lasting. I talked about it earlier in my top 10, but Ashes Purest White is the best screenplay I saw.
Yeah, and I never know where to put the credit on tone and mood and stuff, but I think that adapting whatever it was into transit to give us this mood is quite something. And then that's adapted, and then that French Canadian one, Those Who Make Revolution, as an original one, just because it's a behemoth.
All right, best body of work this year, Robert.
It's Scarlett Johansson, and this is not a pun about body of work. She has always been considered a box office draw, but Marriage Story is one of her best acting performances, like a real actor role. She just has scenery to chew there, but plus she was solid in a supporting role in Jojo Rabbit, and she was in the biggest movie ever, Avengers Endgame. And this is despite her kind of stepping in it with her public comments throughout the year. She kind of made you cringe with some of the things she said, but I think that just kind of goes to show that people are messy. We live in the gray area. It's not black or white. The things she says away from the screen did not cancel out the fact that she had her best year ever in front of the camera. So tough competition this year, but I'll give it to Scarlett Johansson just by a nose.
Yep, she was right there for me, but man, it's hard to deny Adam Driver this year. Lots of stuff. Man Who Killed Don Quixote, Dead Don't Die, The Report, Star Wars, Marriage Story, fantastic, and just about every one of them as well. So, yeah, Adam Driver, great year, Minister.
Yeah, I got to go with The Wisconsin Boy for 3 performances and range with Willem Dafoe. Obviously, The Lighthouse, we've talked about, we know. I think he's good in a weird small role in Motherless Brooklyn. And then those are big performances, manic performances, bombastic. And then there's the quiet, heavy and smoking performance as the lead in Pasolini. So Dafoe, he's probably a candidate for this most years. As many films as he does, but he's awesome.
All right, best ensemble. I think the easy route here is probably Parasite. I don't know if one of you guys is going to go that route, but I decided just to go another way, just to throw a little more love once again to Dolomite Is My Name, film I really got a kick out of. I was expecting the worst. It turned out really good, but I love this cast here. Eddie Murphy, Craig Wilson, Mike Epps. Yeah, and a fantastic return here by Wesley Snipes as well. So Lots of stuff to like about Dolomite. I say check it out on Netflix if you haven't. But that is my ensemble, Robert.
I think the easy choice would be The Irishman, with when you consider like Tony
Sure,
Pro
yeah.
guy with the others, but or maybe Us or Marriage Story. But I'm gonna give it to Little Women. I think a lot of outstanding performances there. To throw a twist, I'll just tell you the two I didn't like from Little Women. I did not care for Emma Watson. Is that her? No? What's her?
Yep, that's it.
From Hermione, right? I don't
Yep.
think she's great there. And then Bob Odenkirk, miscast. That guy totally took me out of the movie when he turned up. He's a good dad, I'm sure. Cast him as a good dad, but not in this time period. Ugh. But the rest, really impressive performances, including Eliza Scanlon, the sister that has an illness. She was really impressive, but strong cast across the board for Gerwig.
Yeah, the hipster pick for me is that Chained for Life, and I think it would be a really good pick, but I think the honest pick is it's the fucking Irishman. Look at that group. My God. And it would have been even better if this rumor is true, it could have been even better because Mickey Rourke says that Robert De Niro got him axed from the movie because he's afraid to act against him after making Angel Heart together. Because he upstaged him in Angel Heart, and he got him axed from The Irishman.
Oh, boy. All right, how about Minister, best art direction, sets, costumes, makeup?
Yeah, I got something that isn't great, decent movie, but it hasn't been touched on at all, and that's Zhang Yimou's Shadow. Robert, saw that? Or what?
No, I skipped that one.
Oh, okay. That's up your alley. Just that type of movie, right? Don't you normally go for that?
Yeah, I do. But
A
it's
lot of
boring.
good umbrellas, good spinning umbrellas, though. And that is art direction.
I'll give it to Joker. That world felt really felt like King of Comedy. They recreated King of Comedy. Give him credit for that. But the hair, I heard that Joaquin wanted to do his own makeup, but I guess they didn't end up letting him do that. It's great makeup for the Joker, different than he's had before, and the costumes, a couple different outfits there. Yeah, Joker, art direction.
And round it out, Robert, with visual effects, best from the year.
I didn't love special effects, so I'm going to go stunt effects, stunt performance. John Wick 3 Parabellum is in my top 20, and it's a film that really feels like it's made by a stunt man because it was so many good stunt effects. That's great visuals in John Wick 3.
And Minister, how about you? The car on two wheels? Or
I mean, that was great. And there's also these scenes in that one of people being birthed out of butts, practically done. Lots of that.
They stole that from Tenacious D, man.
Yeah, it's probably lesser quality done too, and it's for comedic effect. Yeah, I didn't know. Is this cinematography? Is this direction or art direction? I put it in visual effects. I'll go with The Lighthouse for visual effects.
Yeah, good one there as well. All right, that's 2019, guys. Let's put a wrap on the year. Anything anybody's looking forward to in 2020, Robert? I know there's a smorgasbord of stuff, as per usual, but what's tripping your trigger?
I'm always going to look forward to the Wes Anderson, the Denis Villeneuve with Dune. What's he going to do with that? Christopher Nolan's new one. But I'm curious about Charlie Kaufman. Kaufman's coming back with something called Thinking of Ending Things.
Really?
Yeah. I guess we're all big horror fans. Did you know that Scott Cooper has a horror movie starring Kerry Russell and Jesse Plemons called Antlers? That could be really good. There's the guy that made Beasts of the Southern Wild. He has a second film now. Kogonada, who made Columbus, has a follow-up feature. Miranda July is coming back. Sean Durkin. Armando Iannucci. Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to.
Do you remember who's in that Kaufman one? Because there's somebody that was really interesting when I looked that up.
I don't remember.
You don't? Okay, it's not that important. There's somebody surprising that I really liked, but
yeah, almost a certain discussion on this show unless it's impossible to find, which probably not the case with an American director like that. But his last one wasn't the easiest to run down. So
Tony Collette and David Thewlis, Jesse Buckley.
Thewlis there.
Thewlis guy, yeah.
All right, guys. Another fun discussion of the best things of the year. Glad you joined us. And sorry, Ian had to take off, but he literally has to take off at 4 o'clock in the morning So he bailed out at the very end, but it was good to have Ian. We should have him for one more show here, probably in April, as we're talking about our top 10 films of the decade, the teen decade for 2000s. And then Ian is going to step away for a while. Who knows how long, maybe forever, but he's going to stick to It's Only a Podcast, but cutting back on his podcast duties as we will forge on. Without him as a regular, I'm sure we'll still hear appearances from him. He still wants to do the special shows, the Oscars and stuff. He wants to do Flixmas. He wants to do all that stuff. So he'll be around, but just not in regular rotation anymore. So look out for what lawless stuff the three of us can cook up without Ian rapping our knuckles with a short ruler. So, but thanks to him, and thanks to you, Minister, for joining us and giving us your hot takes on the 2019 film season.
Yeah, that was great. It was a blast. It's daunting going into a new year. You have nothing. You're like, am I going to get 10? Will there be 10 good movies? Until you've seen 10 movies, it feels like you're naked, really.
Yeah. Because the summer's coming, there's not going to be anything there. And it's a long time before you put your jacket on again after the summer. So, Robert Gassaway, you never wear jackets in Phoenix, Arizona, I'm pretty sure. So.
Yep, and when the films are bad, we just watch TV, you know?
Yeah, I hear you.
So I'm optimistic for 2020, and I know we'll get through it together with you guys on Flicksation and all the listeners. And yeah, my list is up from day one. So I've already got my list, my top 13 films for 2020 up on Letterboxd. You can find me on there and on Twitter at Robert Gassaway.
And I'm Eric Madsen, once again, Hazer, Hazer75 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow the show on Twitter at Flicksation. Call the voicemail line 608-535-9302 or FlicksationPodcast at gmail.com. All right, thanks for slugging through this another long edition of the best of the year in film. We'll be back kicking in the 2020 film season, maybe. I don't know if we're going to actually do a 2020 film on episode 182 or not, because we are certainly not afraid to kick the new year to the curb for old films, because new films drool. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with episode 182. Until then, thanks for Ian, Robert, and the Minister. This is Eric saying we will catch you on the flip side.